soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force. You are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. But this is the year 1944. Much has happened. Their strength in the air, and their capacity to wage war on the ground. Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war, and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.
Hey, there we go. All right. Hey, everybody. Town Media Director Steve Brogan here, and what you were just listening to was the original speech by General Dwight D. Eisenhower on the lead up to D-Day invasion. It was the speech that he wrote and read to the troops before they were about to land on the beaches of Normandy and do what they did. Because the reason why we're playing that is because obviously yesterday was the 75th anniversary of the D-Day invasion, which turned the tide of World War II and changed the course of human history, if you'll ask me. I would venture anyway. So definitely a important day in history. Marked by a lot of ceremonies. I kind of was understanding like that basically they were making a big deal about this one mostly because it's the 75th and because at this point the guys who were actually there are disappearing quickly and will disappear even more quickly in the coming years. So they wanted to kind of make one big, real big celebration out of the 75th anniversary, given that gravity of it. Of the gentlemen that were there won't be around for much longer, unfortunately. But pretty cool stuff to listen to that. I love history myself. I don't know about you guys out there. Anyways, before I rant some more, so as I said, I'm Town Media Director Steve Brogan. This is our Friday wrap-up. Yesterday was D-Day, so that's why we played that. And on the Friday wrap-up, you can catch us on multiple different places. So Facebook, YouTube, tyngsboroughma.gov, and Comcast 8 and Verizon 29. If you're watching on Facebook, feel free to chime in and ask questions. I have a special guest today. I know you were all expecting to see a dog, and I'm very disappointed. I'm sorry to tell you that, unfortunately, our puppy friend will not be here today. However, I will let me say this before you all throw dog biscuits at me. So you're mad. I'm sorry. He will be here next week. So hold the dog biscuits. We'll definitely have him here next week. George, the therapy dog, will be here. He had to go get his ears done. He was afraid to
his floppy ears.
His floppy ear. He had that one
For
floppy
his
ear
big
thing.
debut.
Wanted to go get it taken care of and made sure he was looking good. So he will be. He'll be here next Friday. My guest today is almost as good as a therapy dog. I'm just
pretty
kidding.
close.
No, he's pretty close. He is our town veterans agent, Mr. Chris Dery. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how you doing? It's
Doing
good to
good.
know I'm able to fill in when the dog can't make it. I'm a suitable backup, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's a suitable backup.
Right
He'll
there.
do. So, kind of twofold though. Reasoning we wanted to bring you on. One was to talk about the parade and all the awesome stuff that happened this past
Yep.
year, but also to talk about what you do. Your day job is veterans issues.
Yep.
And handling the veterans office and stuff, so we can have some good conversation. Veterans are everywhere, and I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, know somebody who's a veteran who run into many issues. There's all kinds of things, from the physical, visible battle scars to the internal stuff to just guys who served who just need help reacclimating back into sort of non-combat society, if you will, or
Sure.
non-theater society. So there's lots of different things that these guys face. So this would be a good one for if you have questions, if you know people, know veterans, and they have questions, maybe they don't want to ask, but they'd like to get something answered. This would be a good way to ask a question. You can ask it of Mr. Dery, and he'll be happy to do the best he can to answer it within reason, obviously, or refer you to the veterans office where you can go then and talk in private and have that whole thing, because that's how it works over in the veterans office. So we're going to have some good conversation on that. Before I get started, though, I want to just quickly go over a couple things that are happening. Kaylee, if you could bring bring the world to your home slide for me on the computer. There we go. So first of all, this is from Tyngsborough High School, and I wanted to get this out as quick as I can, guys. This is they're looking for housing for exchange students for the upcoming high school year. Next high school year, 2019-2020. If you know of anybody or are interested yourself in housing a exchange student for the school year, they would love to hear from you. If you can email Leah, so leah.marullo, MERULLO, at tyngsboroughps.org. That would be how you would contact them and find out or let them know that you would like to help with that program. So again, that's just to house exchange students in the upcoming school year, exchange students who will be coming here to study at Tyngsborough High School. So awesome service. If you are able to, or if you know somebody who's able to, that would be tremendously helpful. But they're definitely looking for housing. I have no idea how many kids. I'm going to try to get the assistant principal to come on and talk about this a bit, Kate Trainer, to come on and talk about this, and we can get some more information.
By exchange student, they're not exchanging their kids for another kid. They're taking in a new kid.
Yes,
okay,
correct. Yeah, you don't have to send one to get one.
Right. Okay. It's not a one for one. Okay, just clarifying.
This is the Friday wrap up, guys.
Right.
All right. So also, it's been Memorial Day. Town beaches open, so get your beach pass if you have not gotten one already. I would highly recommend getting one of these. They're free. Come down to the town administrator's office, grab one, and hang it in your rear view window, from your rear view window, because if you don't have one of these, you run the chance of getting towed from that parking lot if you don't have that, and they're only available to town residents. So there you go. Also, the Donald Singleton Memorial Golf Tournament is going to be happening, so if you're interested, if you're a golfer, you can come out there and hack it up with us. Hopefully we won't destroy the course too much. It's over at Green Meadow, so it's going to be a nice course to play. It hopefully will be a beautiful day. We're going to count on good weather. It is Monday, July 22nd, and the fee is $500 per foursome. So split that amongst four people, and $125, not too bad. And it goes to Tyngsborough Firefighters Association, which they have scholarships, and they also help to support the Tyngsborough Fire Department with equipment and so on and so forth. So lots of cool stuff there. Also on the 23rd of June is the 22nd annual fishing day, brought to you by the Rotary Club of Tyngsborough Dunstable. And basically what they're doing is they've got a fully stocked fish pond, so you can go down there, get a fishing rod, and fish to your heart's content, apparently. They do not have haddock in the pond. You can't pull out filleted fish already. It's live, actual floating fish. But they do have hamburgers, hot dogs, fishing gear, and bait for everybody to use and to eat, obviously. You eat the hot dogs and hamburgers. Right.
Eat the bait.
I don't know why they listed like that. They kind of listed sort of funny on this flyer, but I sort of read that wrong. And then if you want to get more information, tdrotary.org, and that'll take you directly to their Facebook page where you can find out more information and sign up and so on and so forth. So, all right. That's enough of that stuff. I want to put that away for now. Last thing I want to mention real quick is if you are a high school student, well, hopefully you're not a high school. Well, no, you could be a high school. If you're a high school student, you're not graduating today. You can watch the graduation. Otherwise, if you are unable to attend the graduation, you can watch it tonight. It'll be on Comcast 8, Verizon 29, and also streamed on Facebook. Provided the gods of technology will work with me. Everything seems to be working right now. We tested it the other day. It all was working. So that's my hope, is that
But
it stays working.
Technology, like last
Yes.
minute something.
All the time. Technology
Something
just
will
like
just-
like
yeah.
that will just, nope, I'm not going to work now. Forget it. Sorry. Changed my mind.
We'll totally jinx it too. We'll be like, oh, it's
Uh,
working, it's perfect, and then something will go like
I hope
completely
that doesn't
wrong
happen.
last second.
So it's
really
not
don't.
like a Nintendo cartridge where you just
No,
blow
yeah,
it in,
yeah.
put it
I
back.
wish it was that easy.
Yeah, no. Okay.
No, it's usually a lot of cussing and slamming it on the table. No, it's just one of those things that technology is just, I don't know. Well, the other thing too is we put all of our stuff to get back to here so that we can send it out live. Has to go over the internet, and it goes over the open internet, not like our own fiber network from building to building. So you're flowing with all of the other traffic, everybody else's internet activity, cell phones, home lines, all that stuff. So there's times when it gets busy, and then you get into that school, and how many people are they going to fit in there for graduation? I think they get, I'm going to say probably
hot
500
in
to
there,
600. It gets wicked hot in there.
I'm not ready for that.
So there's a ton of people in there. They're all using internet because they're all checking their
Right.
Facebooks and so on. So it just kind of goofs it up. But
Hopefully
anyways,
they
we're
won't
gonna
be
do our
on their
best.
phones though, because
Right.
they'll be watching
They
graduation.
will be, I guarantee.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll be streaming the graduation live or watching our stream.
Yeah, seriously.
Hopefully they're watching our stream. That would be good.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're going to be broadcasting that Comcast 8 Verizon 29 tonight at 7 p.m. and also streaming on Facebook, so you can check it out both ways there. Yes. All right. Let's get on to our conversation now. So as I said, we have Veterans Agent Mr. Chris Dery, who's come in to talk to us about veterans stuff. So first of all, before we get into this, since you're a new guest, this is your first time, right?
No.
Wait. Did you come on before?
I did.
Oh wow. Okay,
Yeah,
I don't
just-
remember. All right.
I should
It's
just
your
play
second time.
along.
You should have. Yeah, you should just
Yeah,
play. All right. Anyways, let's recap. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started here.
So I'm the veterans agent for the town. I've been here since 2011, doing veteransy
stuff.
things. So I handle all things veterans for the town,
Okay.
including Memorial Day ceremony, and then I work in conjunction with the American Legion. They put on the Veterans Day, and we support them. So it's kind of like they support us Memorial Day, we support them Veterans Day.
Okay.
I handle claims for VA, all different types of claims, you name it. Any type of federal application for veterans benefits, all the state benefits, and then I also assist low-income veterans that qualify for benefits through the state. So, glad to be here. I love my job.
Excellent.
It's not really a job when you're helping people.
And that's a good point. And
Yeah.
you're also in the service as well.
I am. I'm
Yeah.
currently in the National Guard, so I still serve. Got a few more years to
What
go.
do you do? What's your job?
Oh, God. So I'm the first sergeant over at the Forward Support Company
Okay.
up in Methuen. Basically, a forward support company, what you do is you provide the fuel, the bullets, and the meals for the soldiers that are out on the front lines. So we actually go to the front lines and deliver those things for them so that they can keep doing the things that they need to do.
Okay.
I started out as an infantryman, went on to a mechanized infantryman, did recruiting for a while, did electronics repair, small electronics repair, night vision, radios, those things. And then went on to HVAC repair. And so I've done quite a few different things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, thank you for your service, first
Hey,
of all.
thanks. Yeah.
You're welcome. So tell me, talking about the veterans side of it and the stuff that you do in the veterans office, tell me about some of like the big issues that face veterans today, like current theater veterans. What are some of the big things that they're kind of like coming back with and coming to you for to get help with?
So right now, the veteran population is dwindling by a staggering amount, actually. But there's no less problems with them coming back. I think in the past, what I got was a lot of Vietnam veterans, kind of threw their bags and was like, "Hey, I'm done with this," and walked away. A lot of them didn't either want help, seek help. They just had enough.
Okay.
Dealing with that, a lot of them are realizing that the system has changed and it's not as bad as it used to be. It's more welcoming for all soldiers, veterans. So I think dealing with those things and then trying to get them back into the system and encourage them that it's not as bad as it used to be, that, it's okay to ask for help in those things. And I think that's something, the greatest generation, you were talking about World War II veterans, asking for help was really taboo. Like it's a generation that
They didn't even recognize PTSD. It was called battle fatigue, and it was just
Right.
like, oh, you'll get over it. Basically, was the mentality.
Yeah, pretty much. And so asking for help was like a no-no. And there are veterans that my predecessor, Kevin O'Connor, worked very diligently with to help them as World War II veterans get into the system, because it wasn't. But by getting help and doing those things, you're helping your family. It's not just for you as a veteran, and opening their eyes and having them realize that that the help that's out there isn't just here's a compensation claim. It's more than that. It's there's all different avenues that you can get. So, you know, helping the veterans coming back now, the issues we deal with a lot now are, you know, the readjustment, getting back in, so employment and those things. So if they are injured, you know, where to go? Is there vocational help? Is there things that they can do that are offered that helps them get back into society, become a functional member of society again? Not that they're dysfunctional, but, you know, they want to feel like they're contributing part.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I mean, when you're out in, and I've never been in the service, so I'm speaking from just stories and you know, a lot of stuff that I've heard. But they're at a constant level of like alertness, and that wears on you as the months and year, you know, however long you're deployed for goes on. And you come back here, and it's like suddenly you don't have to be like that, but then they're stuck in that mode, so they need help sort of like reacclimating their minds back to, you know, back to civilian life, and not having to be like constantly on guard, like looking over your shoulder, waiting for the bad guys.
Yeah, you know, reacclimating to civilian life is absolutely, it's a weird thing. I don't think most people would understand it. Even driving in traffic, you know, you go from, and it's going to sound bizarre to people, but even driving in traffic, or, you know, I think we talked about this before, like neighborhoods with trash barrels out, garbage day, freaks some guys out, because, you know, when you're overseas, and I've never been to Iraq, so I don't want to give the impression I have been, but when you're overseas, you know, some of the guys, when there's trash on the side of the roads, and they're very hyper vigilant of roadside bombs, those type of things. So the smallest things can trigger those emotions, and which seem mundane to you and I, isn't to them. So it's how do they deal with that? How do they get beyond? Like you said, it's adjusting back to civilian life. That the odds that there's no roadside bombs on the side of Tyngsborough.
You hope not, right?
On trash day, right? You'd hope not, but they're constantly. So getting out of that mindset when you've been trained to stay in that mindset constantly, 24/7. Yeah, it's a thing that they have to learn to deal with and adjust. So
yeah, it's something I think a lot of us civilians don't quite recognize and understand. And then on top of that, there's the way the military works in terms of how things operate. You know, you can't translate that necessarily easily back to, you know, working a normal civilian type job. A lot of times I feel like it seems like it's a much different mentality in the military, as far as like just how they get things done. I mean, it's like, do it now, you know.
Right. Yeah, you're up at crack of dawn.
Right. I mean, it's a bit less. It's a bit more rigorous, let's say, than you know, your typical 9 to 5. Like, you know, boss tells you to do whatever.
So active duty folks. So if you're on an active duty base, and as you know, I just came back. I was out in California for a year doing some training at the National Training Center. Active duty folks. So it's a 9 to 5 job. The problem is it's not really 9 to 5. They kind of own your soul. You're 24/7 military.
Right.
So when there's work to be done, the work gets done, and there's no union rep to go to. You know, it's what it is. So you never leave the military. Even if you go on vacation, you're always military. It's kind of weird. When you and I want to go on vacation, we take off.
We don't actually go on vacation together, by the way.
Right, no. But if we take off and do our own thing and go on vacation, you can put your phone away and take that break.
You can.
When you're in the military, it's a lot different. Your phone's always there. Like, there's always that, hey, you can get called back anytime. They can pull your leave at any time if there's an emergency. So there's always that, you know, that going on with
Well, what about even like guys who end up going overseas? Like, the operations of that is different from...
Oh yeah,
talk a little bit about that. Again, I don't have enough experience to talk about it.
So the operations, as far as like how the tempo goes with operations. So yeah, when I went to Kosovo, and we would do patrols all the time on the Macedonia border and those things. And none of this is classified, by the way. This is public.
We don't have to kill him after.
No, I wouldn't be talking about it. So you do patrols, the Macedonia border. Everybody knows that we're still in Kosovo. We've been there for years. But the tempo, you know, it's a little different than civilian world. And like I said, like, hey, we might leave at 11 o'clock at night, not come back till 7 in the morning, or we might get stuck out there because something happens. We may find a washed out landmine on the side of the hill while we're doing patrols, and now we got to stay out there, wait for EOD to come out, blow that in place, and now you're out there for an extra 4 or 5 hours. Now the contingency plan, and now guess what? You had another patrol come in that you were due for in another 3 or 4 hours from then. So you get back, you try and get, are you getting sleep? You might not get any sleep, who knows? So the tempo's a little bit different. It's all mission first. It's always mission first. Civilian world, you work your eight hours, and if you can't work any later, you can't stay late tonight because the kid's got a baseball game. It's not. It's a different tempo over there. The mission's first.
And I mean, what happens if you're like, say you fall ill? Can you call in sick that day? And like, how does that work?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
it's frowned upon.
Kind of figured that.
And I think we circle back to the Greatest Generation, right? That calling in sick. It's kind of like, you don't want to let your brothers and sisters down. I say sisters. I was an infantryman. We didn't have sisters in the infantry back then, and that was only a few years ago, right? But you don't want to let your brothers and sisters down. So calling in sick or being injured is really taboo. Nobody wants to be that guy.
So you just press on.
You kind of press on, and which becomes a huge problem filing for a VA claim later because they never went to the medical clinic and got it documented, and now they got a half-healed broken foot that never healed correctly. And so, I mean, you go to the medical clinic and they'll give you a prescription and they'll give you what's called quarters, which means you stay in your room for 24 hours, 48 hours, or limited duty, things like that. So, you can call in sick. It's just, I guess there's a taboo to it where it's kind of frowned upon.
Right. I imagine it doesn't help, like, if you want to get promoted and things like that, your commanding officer probably won't look on that too fondly.
Those times have changed in the past, but now it's now when we do promotion packets, they're blind. So when you put up a promotion packet, the packet goes up and there's a board that looks at it. Yeah. Your commander really isn't involved unless you're a lower junior enlisted like E4 and below. You pretty much have only been there for a couple of years. But anybody who's going for promotions in the ranks of sergeants and above, I know the Air Force does a written promotion test. So they got away from that a lot where the commander had so much influence on promotion because of those things. They didn't want the command influence. So they still do letters of recommendation. They'll still ask for those things. We have what's called, we have evaluations, NCO evaluations, soldier evaluations. Those go up with your packet as well. So there's places for them to comment, but they can absolutely not comment if you are on sick call. That's not appropriate for them to comment anymore. So those things are very frowned upon,
I see.
Thankfully, because it's changed the culture. Like I said, where you'd be afraid in the past to go to the medical clinic, now you're not as afraid to go and get that taken care of, get it looked at least.
Well, it makes sense because it would goof up your VA claim later on because you never documented it before. Yeah, so wow, that's interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. What other kinds of stuff are guys coming to you for? As far as in the Veterans Office, like, I mean, housing assistance. I
get a lot of families coming. I get a lot of families come to me. A lot of things to prepare for death, right? So you'll get a lot of spouses or family members saying, "Hey, look, mom, dad, they're not doing so well. How does this work? How does the VA burial claims work? How does this work?" And I walk them through the process. A lot of times, our local funeral homes are right on top. Tyngsborough Funeral Home, Drake Funeral Home. Those they've got a process, and they're really good.
Oh, good. Okay.
Every now and then they'll reach out to me for assistance or the family, and I'll be happy to. We try not to step over each other, so we're both not repeating the same paperwork.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll call down to them or vice versa. But the headstone markers, we do a lot of those. I should say footstone marker. We do a lot of those with the VA. And claims. I do a ton of claims here. So I know the town just got me linked up with what's called VetraSpec. And VetraSpec's a system directly into the VA now. So when somebody comes to me and does a claim, I upload their signature into the computer. I upload their information, and that's it. Once I click on a pre-filled form, like I click on a form for them, let's say for whatever they're claiming, it pre-fills it out with all their information. I just have to click a few buttons, hit the signature pad, which I have in my office. They pre-sign a signature pad. Okay. And I send it off. It's at the VA right away, so there's no more paperwork, less paperwork on file, less paperwork. It's all in the system, and at any point in time, I can print that and hand them a copy.
Is that to like kind of help streamline the process? Because I know a couple of years ago they had a lot of things that were hitting the news about the process being really slow and inefficient and so on and so forth.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring it up too.
Okay.
No, so it does. It absolutely streamlines the process because once it hits that system,
Yep.
everything's electronically tracked. So
Okay.
as soon as somebody presses a button in the VA system or up at JFK building where the VA is,
Yeah.
I know it's happened and I know where it is.
Okay. And I imagine it's timestamped too, so you can see like this has been sitting for 3 months. Why is this guy still not getting?
Right, exactly. So the other day I had somebody come to me, they're trying to work on their claim, and the VA kicked back, hey, you guys aren't the power of attorney. It was a different organization. And I said, no, it's right here in Vetrospec. I sent this on this date. And in fact, our organization had time-stamped that, I think it was March 11th or something like that. And so we had all the proof. We had everything we needed.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. They immediately reversed, and we had access to their files that day. Because
Nice.
we had everything there. It was just but those are the type of things. Had we still been doing this all by paper,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a secure portal, right? So I don't have to send, your social security number through the mail where hopefully it gets to where it was going,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody's going to open up a credit card in your name and hopefully
That would be
they're
bad.
really
Right.
responsible people and pay the bill.
Right.
That's what you got to hope.
Yeah.
That happens. No, and I'm very protective of people's information. I treat it like my own. So.
Well, you have to deal with HIPAA as well for you, right?
Yeah, and unlike any other office in the town hall, veterans information, the Attorney General has made a decision that all the information out of my office is considered private,
Oh.
and it's not available under the Public Records Act.
Oh,
So it
interesting.
cannot be requested, and even the courts have ruled the same. That
Interesting. Wow.
there's nobody
good.
can request information from my office, and it's not that I'm hiding anything. It's that it's people's. There's nothing valuable that somebody could request from my office
Yeah.
that is public. It's all personal cases and things like that. So
Okay,
there's no.
right.
It's of no value to the public, is what they've ruled. Now, if somebody ever wanted something, a public release, of course the attorneys would look at it, and if it's something not personal, we would release it. But anything regarding veterans claims or processes or no bueno.
Interesting. Well, that's good to know for veterans out there who value their privacy.
Yeah.
You can go to this place and it essentially is like a black hole in town hall. I mean, you
is.
might as well not be here, basically.
Yeah, my office is right up front. A lot of people notice that I have 2 great windows.
Yeah.
I'm going to auction one off someday. So somebody else can have. But no, my office is right up front. There's a door actually when you come in the front of the building, come up the driveway. My door is immediately in front, not the main entrance. And the reason why they did that when they first built the town hall, the idea was somebody can come in, slide in, come right back out.
Mhm.
Because it's a small town, everybody knows everybody.
Right.
Not
It's a
everybody
good way to
wants to
keep
know
privacy. Yeah.
that they're coming to the veterans office. And I get a lot of people that thank us for doing that and having that so that they can come in, slide in, be private, and leave.
Nice. That's good.
Not everybody comes to my office and does a claim, though, either. Sometimes it's general questions. Sometimes it's for somebody else. Sometimes they're bringing me old flags that have retired. So,
Interesting, yeah.
don't think if you see somebody in my office, they're doing claims, because that's not always the case.
Okay.
Sometimes,
Well,
yeah.
that is good to know. And so guys and girls at home, if they did want to contact you, how do they go about that?
So right in, it's on the town website.
Mhm.
The Veterans Agent, we have a town website. It's also, you can call the main number. My extension's 131 or 132. Either one would work.
There you go. So
Yeah.
649-2300, 131 or 132.
Yep, they can
And you
call
can
me.
get in touch with Mr. Dery and talk about all your veterans issues, whatever they may be. So give me just a quick rundown of like the list of some of the list of services that they can get or access through the veterans office.
Oh,
It doesn't have
jeez.
to be all encompassing. Just to
No,
put
s-
you
yep.
on the spot here, but
Oh,
give me.
I actually have their thing pulled up on the town.
No, I
website.
want what.
Oh.
Oh,
No,
you
no,
have
no, yeah,
you
yeah,
have the
she's-
website.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Let's hear it.
let's-
Yeah,
yeah, there we go.
Let's hear it.
Pulled up here.
Kaylee saves the day.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I wasn't going to list anything off. I was
Okay.
just going to say that it says right here they provide the following services: filing for VA disability compensation and pension, annuities,
pension issues.
real estate, tax. I don't know how to pronounce that. word.
Abatements.
Abatements, lost discharges, nursing home care, health care enrollment, outpatient pharmacy services, Agent Orange and Gulf War claims, alcohol and drug dependence treatment, education and training, home loan guarantees, service life insurance, burial benefits, including headstones and markers, women's veterans issues, homeless veterans replacing military records and medals, review of discharges, Social Security and SSI assistance, veterans preference in employment and housing, along with many more benefits and entitlements.
Oh, there we go. All right.
That's right.
Very nice. Well done, Kaylee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let me ask you. So she mentioned something that I've been seeing in the news lately. So we had Agent Orange, Gulf War syndrome, and now there's this burn pit thing that's going on. Have you heard anything? Started hearing stuff about this?
Yeah. So big court decision came out on it, and sorry, fellow veterans, if you hate me, but it was the right decision. The courts. There was a class action suit against Halliburton, who did the burn pits.
Okay.
And the courts came down and said, no, you can't sue Halliburton. They were hiree of the Department of Defense, and the only way to go after the Department of Defense for your injuries is the conduit, which is the VA. So, while I don't like the decision, I wish they would have held them liable, because the things that they did, the things that they were burning, the exposure they put our troops to was awful. And again, just like Agent Orange, it shows the lack of care on our I don't want to say all politicians, but on our leadership, the lack of care on our leadership for our younger soldiers who they knew would be there. But it's the right decision, because it would open the door to, somebody suing the grenade maker for getting hurt by the grenade. So it's the can of worms, right? So what they said is you have to go to the VA and sue the VA. The VA has done an amazing job over the last few years of addressing the burn pit issues. In fact, they put out a small list of what they consider to be immediate things that they recognize. And just like Agent Orange, eventually they'll come out with a longer list. Unfortunately, those lists sometimes take too long. And then by the time they came out with the Agent Orange list, you had a lot of soldiers or veterans that died.
I mean, that was decades, wasn't it, before they finally acknowledged that was a real thing?
And burn pits were no different. It took them a long time, but not as long, luckily. So, and in fact, I got a case going up into the U.S. Court of Appeals right now, and we're citing the Halliburton case because they're saying, no, that was the DOD's fault. And we're saying, well, VA, you can't say it's the DOD's fault because you can't sue the VA. I mean, the DOD, the outlet to that is going after the VA, and guess who you are? So that's the case we have going on now for a veteran. So it actually worked out in our favors. So the VA can no longer point fingers at other federal departments for their mistakes.
Oh, okay.
So the issue the court said was you have to sue the VA. So no, the burn pit's very sad. Part of me wishes they had sided for the class action suit, but legally, from reviewing, I review so many cases. I want to say thousands through my 8 years here. I probably wouldn't be mistaken by saying that. So I think it was the right decision. Unfortunately, it is what it is. So
but at least thankfully there's recognition of that. They do acknowledge it. It's not going to go decades like Agent Orange did, and even Gulf War syndrome wasn't that. That was a little while before they acknowledged that was a real thing too. Right. So it's interesting though how that kind of stuff happens. So like PTSD, for example, we talked about that earlier. They called it battle fatigue, and they just kind of brushed it off. Right. But it's interesting how they've, it's taken a good period of time for them to recognize these things. But then in the last decade, like a lot of this stuff, even the recent stuff is just like almost immediately or pretty close to it, where they're like, oh wait, there is an actual issue there. We need to figure this out. Right. So that's good to know. At least the government's not like, not that it's all the government's fault, but like they're acknowledging these things.
Well, the cool part about the Halliburton decision was that the court did acknowledge that the injuries exist, that these things were real, and that, yes, you can now go at. So now what they'll do is the VA has to take a better look at and establish that list, because if they don't, the floodgates are now open for those claims. And the court's already said, hey, Halliburton can't be held responsible. Guess who can? So the VA's, I know right now they're working on establishing the list, establishing criteria, and then moving forward. Some big decision just came out recently on the Blue Water decision. I don't know if you're familiar with.
No.
So basically, and we have a veteran who came to me and has an active claim, and they actually put his appeal on hold. We got a letter saying, hey, we're not doing anything with your appeal because there's a court decision about to come down on this. And sure enough, the court said what happened was people on ships outside of Vietnam, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they established, I think it was like 4 miles. If you were 4 miles away from Vietnam or more, you did not qualify under Agent Orange. Anybody who was within 4 miles and went to shore and stepped foot on, it was called foot in country or some criteria where you had to actually step foot in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So they fought it, and they said, wait a minute, that can't be. Just because I was on a ship 4 miles away doesn't mean Agent Orange doesn't float in the air. You know, it was a spray.
Mm-hmm.
And the courts finally looked at it, and they actually sided with the veteran, changed because you have thousands of claims that they've denied in the past, and probably thousands, tens of thousands or more about to come because, well, they were told, sorry, you don't qualify, but now they do. What happened was the court sided with them and said, no, international boundaries is what, 11 miles out to sea? Something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so the court said, wait a minute, the Congress said in the country of Vietnam, the country encompasses the boundaries, right? So they said any ship within the boundaries, which includes their national waters, is included in, guess what? In Vietnam. So they didn't have to step foot anymore, so the court made it clear. And what's cool is the administration, this VA secretary said, we're not going to fight the claim. We're not going to fight the decision. In the past, they've fought decisions like that, which is bizarre because they're there for our veterans. This time, what they've done is they've asked the court to hold the decision. They're not going to appeal the decision. And what they want to do is now figure out the financial impact and then how to move forward once the decision is fully adjudicated. So, you know what I mean? They got thousands of claims, which is going to cost how many millions of dollars?
So
how do
much
we
money.
move forward and make sure and establish how to move forward with this? So they have asked to hold the decision. The courts agreed. But a huge win for the veterans. And
that's interesting.
And
so,
a right decision, actually,
The international boundaries in water is 12 nautical miles, which is 22.2 kilometers or 13.8 miles.
That's it, 12 miles. So that's what they established.
Wow, that's drastic. I mean, that's 4 times the amount of area that they were. Wow.
Yeah, and there was tons of ship within that area because they had to be within the boundaries of Vietnam.
The ships had to be so close that
So
interesting.
Yeah, so it opened up the flood, but that's a correct decision. They couldn't have got that any more right. And
interesting.
I think the VA would have lost out on appeals anyway.
Yeah. Hey, let me just quickly reset. So just so you guys knowing, this is our Friday wrap up. It is Friday. Thankfully, it's a beautiful sunny day. It's supposed to be gorgeous this weekend. Thankfully, finally, after all this rain we've had. But you can watch this broadcast on Facebook, YouTube, TyngsboroughMA.gov, and Comcast 8 Verizon 29. If you are watching too, don't forget to give us a like or a comment or a share or something. That helps us kind of beat up all the Facebook algorithms and get this stuff out there to all of the residents as opposed to just the few that they let us to. So,
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a whole nother thing. We'll have a whole show on that one. But anyways, so this is our Friday wrap up. And my guest is Veterans Agent Chris Dery, who is the Tyngsborough Veterans Agent. So we're just talking about some different things that affect veterans, because there's a lot of issues and things that affect these guys and gals. And Chris Dery is here to help guide, let's say, you help guide the veterans to the different services that they need and make sure that they get those services. So because they do a heck of a job for our country, and they deserve everything that they have been promised and more, I believe. So,
Steve, let me interject one more thing too. Is I do a lot of claims via email. Believe it or not, yeah.
So you never even have to come in and sit?
They'll have to come in once to sign my signature pad, so I have their signature
Gotcha.
on file, so I can click and add it to the files. But the way that works is they'll email me documents back and forth, and you can do that securely. And then they'll write me, hey, this is what I want to file. Now that I've had it written, documented from them that they want to file it, I file it for them.
Nice.
So that if somebody ever asks me, well, who gave you permission to file this? Well, it's right there in an email. I find it's convenient. A lot of people are busy. Town hall office hours aren't always convenient. People work, they're trying to commute Boston.
Right, yeah.
So they leave at 6 in the morning. They aren't home till 6 at night.
Right, yeah. It's not always convenient for those folks,
So sometimes it's just as easy. Hey, have your doctor fax it over to me. I'll scan it in, have them do this. So sometimes you can do with technology. I mean, we've made it a lot more efficient here in Tyngsborough.
Yay, technology sometimes.
Yeah. Except for at the high
Except for
school.
at the graduation when it doesn't want to work. Or I'm not actually. I shouldn't say that. We haven't. It
I
hasn't.
know.
I
Don't
want to
jinx
jinx
it.
it. Right.
Jinx it.
It hasn't not worked yet.
Yeah.
Kaylee, on Facebook, could you pull up the Memorial Day parade photos that we put out for me, please?
Uh-oh.
And now let's move on. Let's change gears a little bit. Getting off the veterans agent stuff, just quickly a reminder, if you need any services, contact Chris Dery, 649-2300 here at Town Hall. Extension, was it 131 and 132?
Correct.
For you, right? Okay. And you can also email him, cdery@tyngsboroughma.gov.
Do you want the veterans agent email too? Because I have that pulled up right now.
Yeah.
Sure,
Go
there you go.
ahead.
Yeah,
So,
just give
veterans agent.
Oh, veterans agent.
At tyngsboroughma.gov.
Right, veterans
Yep.
agent at tyngsboroughma.gov.
I would look on the website. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
I just typed
We have
in.
a new website coming
I
soon.
just typed in Veteran Services Tyngsborough and it
Yeah.
showed up.
Okay.
So.
There
Cool.
you go.
So yeah, grab the Memorial Day photos. There we go. And let's talk about this a little bit. So Memorial Day was this past Memorial Day. It was a week ago, right? And it was a lot of fun. We had we had a good turnout. We had great weather, which was amazing. It's been kind of drizzly the last couple of years, but it was nice to see some nice.
It was actually
nice
really
solid.
hot out on that day. I was wearing like long sleeves thinking I was gonna be fine.
It was
like,
warm in the
"Whoa."
sun. I will definitely say that. I didn't have to run as much this time around, which I was happy for because I had 4 people actually helping me this year, so that was cool.
Where was the drone?
There was no drone. Yes, there was no drone this year.
You're letting us down, man.
Yeah.
Right in the
next year. There'll be a
Merrimack
drone
River.
next year.
Right in the Merrimack River.
Yeah. Let's not talk about the drone. It's a sore subject for me. It'll be back. Don't worry.
All right,
So I have
It'll
both.
make another
I
appearance.
have both the cemetery and the parade.
Okay, cool.
photos pulled.
So before we do it, I want to talk to Dery before we go with the photos because we took there's how many photos?
There
we
was
took
1,500
right, okay.
that I had to go through.
And we narrowed it down to how many? 170
I think
or
it's
something
like
that?
170 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we narrowed it down quite a bit. But
I actually got good feedback about those photos.
Oh, good.
I've had
Really?
people comment
We worked
that.
hard.
Yeah, that the photos came out great.
Aw.
Everybody, all the feedback I got was you guys did a fantastic job. So.
That's really
yeah.
nice.
Nice. Very nice. Good. Glad to hear. So what I want to ask you is talk about all of the work that goes into planning a parade because you do this mostly solo as far as the planning stuff goes. So talk about some of that, how so people kind of understand it doesn't just happen that everybody shows up on Memorial Day. There's a lot of coordination.
I
and stuff
actually
that goes
start
into
in
it.
January.
Do you really?
Yeah, which is crazy. But I've got a list now. For me, it's like clockwork because I made a spreadsheet. I got a list. I got a checklist, like when to call who and follow up and what. And I'm pretty methodical about it. But most people in town, like the fire department, police department, they just know it's it's almost a habit every year. So it goes off without a hitch usually. But yeah, no, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work trying to keep it together and making sure, like I said, the follow-up. Hey, is the bugler going to show up or is the bugler not going to show up? And usually that's not till 24 hours before the parade I find that out.
Gosh.
Stuff like that.
Dery's
But
It does look like a ton
Where's
of
the
work.
bugler?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that come to
Well,
that.
because you got to get all of the different organizations that show up to march in the parade.
Right.
You need people to, the bugler, the Minutemen, the veterans from the Legion to come out and do their thing. Then we have the police, the fire, the guys from the fire. I mean, everybody that shows up. And then on top of the parade, you've got the cemetery sort of tour that we do in the morning. Was it 5 cemeteries we go to?
Yeah,
in the morning?
the 5 and
cemeteries.
then the 2 monuments up at
Right, and the
front.
2 monuments. So there's 7 total 7 total stops.
Yep.
So there's that whole bit that goes into it. I mean, where does who pays for the food at the end at the Legion and the details and that kind of stuff?
So
How does
yeah,
that
no,
work?
I have a budget. It's believe it or not, the budget's only $900.
Wow, that's a small budget.
Yeah, 500 of that goes to the Minutemen because they have insurance and the black powder and all the other stuff.
Right,
So
okay,
there's 12 of them, right? So it isn't like these guys are going to Florida on our $500, right? So
that's true. Yeah.
and it's been $500 since I got here in 2011.
Wow, really?
So it isn't like
they're
so
worth much more, I think. honestly.
Right. I think so too. But $500 from them, and I spend probably $300 and some change on the food, and then on whatever else we need. So when we do the bike wagon contest, if I got to buy ribbons and those things, so I have a little buffer in there. But yeah, $900 is what we spend, which isn't hardly anything
Yeah, that's
compared.
not much.
The American Legion does a great job because they cook and everything else. If we had to cater that out, different story.
Kaylee, open up
Things
one of
like
those
that.
images and just start clicking through. I'm going to bring that up every now
I'll
and
go
again
through
to
the
show some
cemetery
of
ones
these.
first.
Chris wants to see himself.
Nice,
that
nice.
dapper
Oh man,
lad
yeah, that's
in
yeah.
his
I do
uniform.
like these shots.
Yeah,
came
no,
out
they all
nice.
came out great. I actually kept a bunch of them too, so
Nice.
I downloaded a bunch. So.
Um,
So we did move one of the monuments because we're doing construction. So
Right,
the World War
on
One and
Winslow Road.
Yeah, they're
where is
down-
that going?
They're going into the big median, on the so that they moved it over across by the other World War II monument.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
it's like directly facing each other right now.
Oh, nice. Okay.
They're redoing that whole park.
Yep.
It's going to be almost like a memorial park at some point.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some hopes, some dreams. I know I've been in talks with Justin, who's done a phenomenal job, our assistant town administrator, on getting that project going. You know, as you know, we had a young soldier from Tyngsborough die
Mm-hmm.
not too long ago, Paul King. And out front here of the town hall is where his memorial is. He's not buried in town. That's considered Paul King's memorial. And his family is always there, always dressing it up.
Okay.
They're great people. But I would like something to be down there for him as well. Not that I don't want it here. It's he deserves it appropriately. They all deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
So I never want to take one and put one above the other.
Mm-hmm.
But it'd be nice to get all the monuments kind of in one spot, so people who want to go down and appreciate that can do that all in one spot rather than traveling around the town. But we'll see. Like I said, Justin and I, and he's been working really hard in trying to do it respectfully, right? I mean, you
Mhm.
don't want to just uproot monuments because it's not what you do. They're
Right,
there for a
yeah.
reason. They are where they are for a reason.
Right. Yeah.
So you've got to be very careful. And but he's been doing great. So we'll see where that goes.
I like the town common would be cool to use more of that, where the monument is down at the end of the town common that we stop at on Middlesex Road there. You know, we take the right down Middlesex
Yep.
Road and we stop at that. And then that whole stretch there is the town common. And for folks who don't know that actually belongs to the town, that stretch of grass there.
I believe that's where
that
they want to
monument
do
is.
it. Yeah.
Is that where they want to
Yep.
put all of them?
Yep.
See, that would be a cool, to me, I think that would be a neat spot, nice and right in front of right by the road so people can see them. And
Wait, are you talking where the Vietnam Memorial is? Or are you talking to the common where the washaway is right now? Like where they
I'm talking about is that the Vietnam Memorial? The one that's down
so if
by
you,
the Lambert's house there.
Oh no, that's the
What's that
Vietnam
one?
Memorial. So they
Okay.
probably won't do it there.
Oh, okay.
And here's why. Here's why it probably won't happen there. Parking. So the Vietnam Memorial gets very little. Like nobody really stops. Where are you going to stop? You're going to pull in Corey's driveway. Like,
Well, right, that's true.
not
That's a
that
good
they
point.
can't, because he's got an easement to town land, right? So they could, but you don't want to block the guy's driveway because
Right.
he could.
Sure.
That's not appropriate either. So where do you park? So I think that became a contentious issue
Okay.
about putting it down there. As I guess they could park at the church and walk down. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't think about parking. Right, Kaylee, find me that image that I took of the bugler on the bridge with the flag. I thought that was a really cool shot.
Yeah, the bugler did really well this year.
He did good. Yeah,
yeah.
he did good. He needs to practice a little bit, just a touch. but
Yeah,
he did
you
good
know,
enough.
I think
it's nice
people
having a
get.
real
I think
bugler.
people get nervous.
Yeah, that's true.
Is
Right.
this the shot you were looking
That's
for?
the one I was looking for. Yeah, I like this. So I took this shot, and here, let me bring it up on screen. I took this shot, and I was like, "Oh, that's a cool looking shot." I just
That's a
liked the way
great
it came out.
shot.
You know, all the flag and the kid playing.
You
and
should
the-
send
it's
that
good.
over to Matt Eaton, because he's.
Well,
in
these are
charge
all on
of the town.
Facebook, so they can
Oh,
grab
all right, yeah,
all this
yeah,
stuff anytime they want to.
Yeah,
But
Yeah,
I
you
just,
just find it.
I
if
just
you
like
go
that shot.
right,
every-
like under photos, right there.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, it's in an
All of
album.
them are right
We
here.
shared it out too across the town, so everybody's
Sweet.
well, not everybody's seen it, but a lot of people see. I just really liked it. Really enjoyed that shot. It was one of my.
So speaking of the parade,
We're
considering doing like a committee
okay.
to get it to be better, right? Because I'm only one person.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Right.
only so much I can do.
Right.
I think you do a great job.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're the only one.
There's
that's-
always
yeah, thank
there's
you.
always room to improve
To
something,
improve.
right? You know.
So Candy Lake in the past, I've asked them for tickets for I didn't do it this year.
Mhm.
I'm gonna get back on that wagon next year and get tickets. Hopefully we do like a float contest, something. But in order to do those things, I really need somebody to spearhead that, right?
Mhm.
I don't want to micromanage. It's like, hey, we're doing a float contest or we're doing a bike wagon contest. Do you want to help? Because if you want to help, you're in charge of it. You can take the ball and run. You can make it your own, man.
Mhm.
You know, as long as it's done in the respect of Memorial Day parade
Right,
type
of course,
thing.
yeah.
So been talking with the town administrator, assistant town administrator, throwing the idea out. We're going to look into doing something like that, a committee. Nothing in stone, just some ideas right now floating around on how to make it better. How do we improve, right? I think that's the one thing the military does for me and most veterans is the one thing we always try and do is they call it improving the foxhole, right? So your World War II soldiers, they dug their own foxholes, like huge, long, enormous foxholes, but they would never stop. Like even when you think they're stopped and they're finished, they're always improving them somehow, some way. Maybe adding sandbags, adding defensive position. And life is the same way. You always want to improve. You never want to sit still. And I'm not saying defensive improvement, but when I leave my office someday and retire, someday I will, I want it to be better than when I got there. For my son, I want his life to be better than, have better opportunities than what I had. And so on and so on. So you always, that's what you're doing in life. You're improving the foxhole. And Memorial Day parade, no different. Let's improve the foxhole. Let's keep it going. So whoever takes over, they have a process, it's streamlined, but they have something to go on and keep building, not go backwards.
So what are some of the things with the parade that you'd like to see sort of change, adapt, what in your mind's eye, what's the perfect parade look like to you?
Oh God. Well, Tyngsborough is pretty dynamic, man. There's a lot of challenges because it's small, but that also gives us a lot of opportunity at the same time. The one thing I've always kind of cringed about is where we end over by the Legion, because traffic goes by there pretty fast, and there's very limited parking. People are scrambling to get out, and get out of the traffic and get over the bridge or whatever it is. So that's always something that's been in the back of my mind. How do we improve that? What can we do? Is there anything we can do? Those type of things. So I don't think there's a perfect parade. I just think, like I said, improve the foxhole. Figure out, hey, what can I do better? What can I focus on this year that would improve it? You never want to go in, I guess, right? You don't want to go in and change the whole thing one year because...
Right, yeah.
So are you thinking about, like, changing the route of it?
That's come up. Doing a circle, take a right at the carpet store, go back up, come back down Chronopolis Way, back over the bridge.
Okay.
And then ending back at the old town hall. That idea's been thrown at me. I've also heard, other things about no parade, which that'll never happen.
That shouldn't happen, right?
No. People really enjoy it, so you don't want to not do a parade.
Yeah. Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
This is something that I've sort of noticed over the years in covering these types of events and things like that. It seems like there's always the group of diehard people who will show up for the parades, and they love the parades. I mean, I love the parades myself. I think they're a lot of fun. But then I feel like the interest isn't as great as it was, say, back in, like, say, the World War II and even on from there, like the ticket day parades and things like that. I don't know, how do you get the community to be more interested and show up for these? Because I mean, I feel like they should show up for two reasons. One, because it's fun and supports your community. Two, because it shows the reverence that you hold for the men and women who fell to protect this country, and that whole thing. So how do you get people more interested, though?
Great question. The one thing that I think people miss, and is one of the reasons why I want to do like a committee thing, is I'm 46. So when I started here, I was in my 30s. As you get older and as you grow, I know less and less people. When I walk that parade route, I don't know as many people. So I don't know if there's less interest, but I don't see as many people I recognize, right? So I think what's important is we don't involve the younger people. Like, even the high school kids. Maybe there's a kid on the high school who'll be like, hey, man, I'd love to get involved in the parade float contest. You know what? We have a float, or maybe there's a college student out there who wants to do it as a part of a project. But getting a younger generation, a younger eye looking at it, because we talk about technology, right? I I don't know. I ask my kid to help me out my phone sometimes. Well, not that bad yet, but you get what I'm saying, right? So
He actually is that bad.
Time evolves and things change. This isn't the way it was 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
People are busy. Like everything's if you walk into the Department of Motor Vehicles today and watch people waiting for their license, there isn't one head up looking anywhere but down at their phone.
Right. Yeah.
That's
very true.
20 years ago, they'd all be sitting there complaining to each other, talking about, what was on Oprah that day. So my point is, as time evolves, I think we've got to be willing to evolve with it. I'm not stuck in my ways to where I've got to have it this way because this is the way it's always been. I heard a great analogy once. It was, and this didn't really happen, so please don't take this seriously, is just because my father beat me when I was a child and I turned out okay, doesn't mean I should beat my children, right? So just because something was effective, wasn't effective, and that's the way it is. That's the way. No, it doesn't mean we can't take another look at it. And
Right. Yeah.
By the way,
that's true.
note, my father never beat me as a child, but that was a saying, and it resonated. That's true. It's okay to find a different path that works. May work.
Let's look at it. We can look at it this way too. It's an opportunity. So these infernal machines that we use to connect with everybody. Means that you have a captive audience too at the same time. So maybe using some more social media, modern stuff. I mean, heck, you can watch this show right now on this device if you so chose. But using some of that. So let me know too. I'll do the best I can to help you guys.
No,
promote
absolutely.
Some of this stuff. We'll work.
Like
on that.
I was saying about claims, half of my stuff I have to convert documents to PDF, upload them. Scan, upload. Technology is different. 8 years ago, when I first started, not even possible. I had to fax everything in. Everything was faxed by barcode into Department of Veteran Service, which goes to show, like, if you're not keeping up, then you're falling behind.
Yeah.
And that's
the pace of technology has accelerated in the last.
So
decade.
I think we can use that with
it's
the
really
parade.
interesting.
Yeah, I think we can use that with the parade. Get another look, get a committee together, and take a look. How can we better it? It's not that it's bad. Again, like I said. Nothing wrong with it. But how do we better it?
Though. Right, yeah.
How do we
well, so here's my challenge for everybody watching out there. Remember that the parade comes up next year again. And help get more people out to the parade. I think that would be one of the biggest things we could do. But also to maybe get on this committee so you can talk to Chris at the in the Veterans Office and maybe see how you can volunteer some time and help. And we can use that as a way to help, like I said, generate some more community spirit. I mean, the community has spirit. I see them talking on Facebook all the time, and they're like, there's spirit there, I'll tell you. It's quite interesting, whether it's angry or happy spirit. It's spirit for sure. So, we just have to harness that spirit and put it into the parade and whatever else.
I've heard some nightmare stories from other towns about their support for veterans in our town.
Yeah.
We don't have that issue. Our Board of Selectmen have never wavered. Our town administrator, everybody has been fully supportive of, the direction we want to go with our
Excellent.
veterans.
And that's how it should be, honestly.
Right.
It should be, the community should be very supportive of their veterans.
Other than
and
cash prizes for people that show up, we won't do cash prizes.
Right. I've never worked anywhere where I've seen any lack of spirit for the vets and support for the veterans. It's mostly just the civic parades and things like that.
You'll never see it, Steve. It'll happen behind the scenes, and you'll never see it.
Yeah,
they'll be the first ones in the front of the parade. Our town, that rightly should be, but I've seen some other cases. But that's too bad. But our town, we don't have that issue, so we'll keep trucking forward.
Good. All right. Let's change gears again and just do one more thing before we go. So, Kaylee, we had a couple of fun articles to pull up.
Yeah.
So back on the fact that yesterday was D-Day, 75th anniversary. I love history, and for whatever reason, I used to watch this. This is probably why I used to watch these movies with my dad. It was all World War II movies, and it always piqued my interest. And so, to me, the historical significance of it, as well as the significance of it in general, is really neat. Always been neat to me. But we had found some cool articles. So there was a gentleman, I was watching an interview with him the other day, and this gentleman, he is, I think he's what,
97.
Thank you. I was gonna say 98. Okay. He was one of the original paratroopers on D-Day, and he took another jump for the 75th anniversary.
That's crazy, huh?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he jumped out of a C-47 into somewhere on the beach somewhere. And it was just super cool, though, like to do that, to reenact that thing on
There's a
the
picture.
D-Day anniversary. Yeah, there he is. Yeah. So
that
it was
cool.
It's interesting to listen to, and I've enjoyed watching and listening to a lot of the Veterans History Project stories, where they go and interview different veterans and stuff, because you learn so many interesting things about their life outside of even the military. You know, what led them up to joining the military, why, and that, you know, we had Pearl Harbor, and everybody had that, like, yeah, I want to go get the Japanese and the Germans and kick their butts. Right. And so they all, you know, suddenly had that pride of their country and wanted to fight for it. And the same thing happened, I think, at 9/11. There was a lot of guys who, like, a lot of my friends, they like ran to the recruiters, like, when that happened, and were like, I want to fight, and, you know, and that was their thing. But it's interesting when you get to listen to these guys' stories and stuff, you know. And there's obviously
and then they joined and found themselves sitting down a motor pool for 12 hours a day, going, whoa.
Right, there are guys who, you know, they had more mundane experiences.
I thought I was going somewhere. I thought I was going to do something.
But even so, here's an interesting example. I interviewed a guy. Or rather, I filmed an interview of a gentleman. He was World War II in the Navy. I think he was a cook on the ship on an aircraft carrier, right? Like, probably the worst job, I would think. It was being like the cook on the ship, having to, like, you know, make all the food. You never get to really leave the bowels of this big giant boat, really. But then there was a kamikaze attack on, and the name of the carrier is escaping me that he was on, but there was a kamikaze attack on it. Hit the ship, and he talks about his experience from that moment after, and, like, just the hell that ensued from, you know, from these type of experiences. And he was a cook, you know, he wasn't even in combat. He was, you know, behind the lines. You know, other guys that we had interviews. One was repairing tanks in armored vehicles and things like that in theater, and, you know, talked about, like, just the kind of the gore of it. It was pretty intense, actually. Yeah. You know, because you'd have to sit there and hose out. These were ones that got knocked out and brought back and, you know, refitted and ready to go again back on the line. And, like, you know, a couple guys or a person or more had perished in there, you know, hours or days before. So it was like one of those. It was fascinating stories. I mean, obviously they're can be tough, you know, obviously to listen to, but really interesting to listen to these guys tell their stories. We play a bunch of them here, by the way, on our TV channels on Comcast and Verizon. So if you're ever interested in checking them out, the show was called The Veteran Story. But there's a lot of other ones too. The Smithsonian does a lot. We actually filmed a lot of shows for the Smithsonian that they have on their archive now of veteran stories. They did what's called the Veterans History Project. That was really cool. But we covered guys from World War II and anybody who was still alive before that, but mostly it was just obviously World War II, all the way up to current guys who were getting ready to deploy to Afghanistan. So we had a lot of really cool interviews. Fascinating stuff. We went through some, like, the technology, the weapons. We had a couple shows where they brought in, like, rifles and stuff like that, and showed all the sort of the history of all that stuff. And but it's neat to hear these guys, and you know, it's cool to see these guys reenact their stuff, because, I mean, clearly this was for it's not even our generation, for the two generations before us. Right. You know, this still is the most impactful thing that has happened, short of the Civil War, let's say. But that's, you know, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
This article, it's a 98-year-old veteran named Ray Lambert, and he returned to Normandy. And he said that, I realized that if I didn't tell these stories about my men, that they couldn't do it. I felt my responsibility and obligation to talk to people and tell people about the war and what they did. So he, like, felt like it was, like, his responsibility to do that.
I mentioned the battle fatigue earlier, and there was an interview I watched just the other day of another gentleman who was a medic, a corpsman on D-Day. He was on the beaches, and he, you know, thinking about, like, PTSD and stuff. He got battle fatigue because the stuff he saw and did in his story was unbelievable. I don't even want to talk about it necessarily. Like, I won't talk about details because it was pretty grotesque stuff that he had to deal with. Most of it involved dying men, dealing with those, you know, last moments of these guys. And he took that with him, obviously, like any sane person would, and ended up having to, you know, because they didn't recognize PTSD, didn't even know what PTSD was, and they called it, you know, was battle fatigue. Right. A lot of these guys would self-medicate, you know, whether it was alcohol or drugs, and this guy was literally that story. Very interesting, until it finally got to the point where his family had to do, like, an intervention with him. And then he ended up, at some point, started talking about his experiences, and that sort of helped to, you know, like what you just read, Kaylee, that other gentleman, that helped, like, him to cope with all the stuff
Vietnam era veterans seem to suffer the worst with self-medication and coping. That you brought that up, because the World War II generation and Korea War generation they were really celebrated when they came home. Like they,
Yeah.
you know,
Vietnam was
you
not.
had professional athletes that were like, I'm out. I'm gonna go. You know,
Right.
Korea War. See you later. I'm there.
Right.
Whatever it was. But Vietnam, you had a few. Not many. Not as many as the previous.
Mm-hmm.
But when those guys came home, like I said, they had a raw deal. It's gotten better for them. They weren't celebrated as much as the guys coming home now. So they had the rawest of deals. So I think to them, the self-medication, you see more of those issues amongst them than you do of others. And I'm not downplaying anybody else's experience by any means. But I think the Vietnam era's
They took the
veterans-
brunt of it.
Yeah.
I know a gentleman that helped us on the program, the Veteran Story program. He was oh man, what is the unit he was in? He was in the one that they made the Mel Gibson movie where they dropped into that. They dropped into an area, and he was in that. It's like 3rd Cavalry, I think it was, or something like that. They have the patch with the horse and the slash through. There's like an orange patch.
Second Cav?
Second Cavalry, maybe that was what it was. Anyways, they even made a movie about it. Like it was this.
Oh, that's
this
First Cav. I think that's First Cav out
crazy-
of right now. I think they're out of Texas.
Okay, so
Maybe
he was
Fort
one of
Hood.
these guys. He talked about his experiences and all that stuff. Super nice guy. You could tell he'd clearly been through to hell and back. But the thing that stuck with me the most was this piece that he told us at the end was, when I got back from Vietnam, the first thing he did was take his uniform off, shove it in his duffel bag, and anything else that he had that looked like he had been to Vietnam, took it all off, put it in his bag, and changed into civilian clothes, and hid the fact from everybody. Didn't want to tell anybody at the airport, anywhere else, the fact that he was a veteran, because they were like spitting on them, throwing acid on them. I mean, they were doing all kinds of awful stuff.
Right.
To just these guys who just went and did what their job was. They went and did what they were told to do. But
Yeah, they were
you know,
drafted, so
Right.
they had no choice. I mean, you could have moved to Canada. And ironically enough, the VA has actually gone back. If you do, you can file for a DD-214 upgrade. So those that got dishonorably discharged for not honoring the draft at the time, they actually went back and did them a solid. And
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
You can
interesting.
actually file for it. It doesn't always get granted, but
Yeah.
sometimes, every now and then, they will.
Interesting.
Yeah, for that. The other one
Huh.
was for homosexuality. Those that were kicked
okay.
out for that,
Yeah.
they now reverse that. You'll get an honorable discharged. But you
Luckily,
don't see
there's
it
no
often.
draft for us to have to deal with. Let's
Yeah,
hope that
that's
never
the,
happens
that's the
again.
ongoing debate: is should there be a service requirement for youth? That's been the ongoing debate for
You know,
years.
it's an interesting topic. I wish we had more time so we could talk about it. It's an interesting topic, though, because there's a lot of countries, like in Europe, it's mandatory 1 or 2 year service. I mean, I have cousins that live in Greece that they had I think it's a mandatory 1 year service.
You know what I'd like to see for 1 or 2 year mandatory service, not necessarily military, because that's not for everybody. Is infrastructure work. So mandatory 1 or 2 years. You get paid to work on road crews, engineering projects, anything it is, but that's your experience for 1 or 2 years. Everybody contributes. Everybody gets a piece of the pie. I'd like to see something like that. Infant. It's in its infancy.
Okay.
But so I don't know if I'm saying it right. But anyway, yes, a project like that where they're gainfully putting young adults into situations where they're learning something.
Yeah.
Whether it's a trade, I don't know.
Hey, there's lots of things. I mean, there's the big push, the micro sort of mantra of like, maybe not go to college, you go to a trade school.
Yeah,
don't
really.
not go to school of some type. But
I don't know if you
trade
tried to
school's not
call
a
a
bad
plumber
idea.
lately. Good luck.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, see,
I do
we're
my own
running out of
plumbing. I have to.
tradesmen.
Yeah.
So
It's hard. There are a lot of them. Anyways, that's a whole nother subject for
Yeah,
another
yeah,
day.
all right.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this up.
Right
Chris,
now?
Yes. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to get to before we wrap it up?
No,
Right,
well,
right.
I guess you pretty much ended it before you give me that. No, we're good. Hey, thanks for having me. This was
Sure, you're
this
welcome.
was a great time. It's always good to be on. Hopefully the dog doesn't show up again next time you want me to come on.
I'll let you know. I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
So I just a quick.
Does he have a better agent than me? What's going on?
He does have a good
All
agent.
right,
Yes,
good.
he has a very good agent. A couple of quick show notes. Obviously, next week, as we just mentioned, George, the therapy dog, will be here in studio, so you'll get to see him. Save your dog biscuits. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a good day. We're all
George
excited
doesn't
about
give therapy advice. It's just George is therapy.
George is the therapy. Yes.
Okay.
He's the
George
therapy.
himself.
He
He just needs to be
might
himself.
bark
Yeah.
ther-
Oh,
maybe he
okay.
barks therapy. I have no idea.
Right.
Barks advice. Not really sure.
Right.
Howls.
He doesn't give advice.
He gives
though.
off the vibe.
It's not like
There you go. Yeah. So George will be here next
right.
week, next Friday, 11 o'clock, to introduce himself to the community. After that fact, I'm working with a woman from. She works in the town of Bedford, but she's part of the recycling. She handles a lot of the recycling stuff. And so we had that show about a month ago now with Donna McPartlin from the Board of Health going over recycling and the Recycle Smart MA .org website, and we found the issues with it, the glaring issues, with a few, with some common things. So she's going to come on and try to help explain, or at least answer some of the other questions that we weren't able to answer. So stay tuned for that next week as well. So Friday at 11 is going to be George the therapy dog, and then at 12:30 we're going to have Julia Gagné come in. I think that's her name, and she's going to talk. And Donna McPartlin will be here as well, and we're going to go over recycling kind of again.
they got their own hour outside of the dog.
They did, yes, outside of the dog. Yes. Thank you. I'm going to turn your mic off now. No, just kidding. So stay tuned for that for next week. Also, don't forget tonight, if you're interested, it is still on. Tonight is the Tyngsborough High School graduation, which will be broadcasting on Comcast, Verizon, and streaming, hopefully, provided everything still works, on Facebook as well. All of it is obviously subject to
Steve,
the
if you
loads of
missed the
technology.
graduation this year, don't worry. It'll be on again next year.
Yes, that's true.
Yes,
It will
they're
happen
doing
again
that.
next
Yes,
year.
it'll happen again next year.
However, I'm sure the class of 2019 wouldn't appreciate that comment because they won't be there
What?
next year's. A huge amount of kids are graduating. Super excited for all these guys.
Yeah.
I've gotten to work a little more closely with some of these high school kids now, so it's been a bit more fun learning who they are and stuff. So I'll be sad to see a bunch of them go because they're going to be graduating and going off to school. But that said, you can watch it tonight at 7 o'clock at Tyngsborough High School. So. Or just come down if you want to come down and watch your kids graduate.
Go
You probably
Tigers.
already will be anyway. So, last wrap up. One more quick mention of the. Can you bring that flyer up one more
Yes.
time? Just one more quick mention. Tyngsborough High School is looking for homes to host exchange students. If you are so interested or know anybody that might be interested in hosting an exchange student, that would be a tremendous help. These are for the upcoming school year, kids who come from abroad. Study over here, and I think they're just here for the year. I'm not totally sure, but you can contact Leah Marullo at Tyngsborough High School. Leah Leah.Marullo Merullo at tyngsboroughps.org, and I'll put that in the description, the email address. So that's all we got for today, folks. Kaylee, the weather real fast. We'll show that just because hopefully it's good. It's supposed to be good this weekend. I have plans this weekend. I'm going to be doing some fun stuff. Hopefully you guys have some good plans too. It's supposed to be gorgeous outside.
What are you doing, Steve?
The sun is still shining.
What are you doing this weekend?
Behind the screen. We're having breakfast with some friends on Saturday, and it's my wife and I's 6th wedding anniversary. So
Nice.
we're going to We're going to the Blue Dragon down in Boston. It's Ming Tsai's restaurant, one of his restaurants.
Nice.
He had 2, and I think he just
Did
has
you
this
say
one now.
6th anniversary?
6th anniversary, yes. Number 6.
Ooh. The under-over, everybody at Town Hall, the under-over was 5.5.
I
so
made
if you
it.
took the
Hooray.
under, you are not a winner.
I made it past 5. She hasn't killed me yet. I'm still walking. So, yeah.
Yeah, so the weather's going to be
Oh,
gorgeous.
here we go. Yes, let's throw the weather up.
So tomorrow's
look
going
at
to be sunny with a high near 78. And then Sunday is going to be high of 81. Very nice.
Nice.
And then Monday back to
Hey,
back
look,
to showers.
just in time for the
Yeah.
start of the work week. Back to Monday and rain.
Gotta love
Yay.
it.
Super awesome.
Nice.
You know what, though? The weekend's going to be good. I will take every last bit of
That's
that weather
true.
that we can get our hands on.
I feel like it's a lot colder than it was this time last year. I feel like I remember it being warmer.
It's been a weird
Yeah,
season.
it has
Yeah,
been.
It's been a really
Even-
weird
yeah.
summer. So, anyways, it's gorgeous outside right now. Get out there, enjoy it. Yeah, that's all we got. Don't forget, like, comment, share, subscribe. Totally helps us. And you can watch this show, Facebook, YouTube, TyngsboroughMA.gov, and Comcast 8, Verizon 29. And thank you, Kaylee. Thank you, Chris.
Spade and neuter your pets.
Yes, don't forget to get your pets spayed and neutered. I'm not sure where that came from.
That was random.
Bob Barker over
Bob Barker. Yeah.
Yes.
That's fun, yeah. Price is Right. At the end of every show.
here. Anyways, with that said, hope you guys have a good weekend. We'll see
Random
you at the graduation or next week on Monday with the news. Take it easy, everybody. Bye.
Go Tigers.